All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installation of the Darrow webinar series. Let's just wait a couple more minutes and let a few more people join in. And while we're waiting, let me just give a quick introduction of Darrow. So, for those of you who don't already know us, we are Darrow, a legal intelligence company that believes in frictionless justice, which means we use AI and other technology to help plaintiff side firms detect legal violations and litigate impactful cases in a number of different practice areas. And so, labor law is one of the major domains that Darrow works in, and that's the one that we're going to be discussing largely today. All right, it looks like we have quite a few people in here, so I think we are ready to begin. Welcome everyone to the Darrow webinar on MLMs or multi-level marketing litigation. So my name is Luke Miller, and I am a legal consultant here at Darrow. I am a licensed attorney with 4 years of defense side experience at a big law firm before joining Darrow approximately a year ago. And I am the post sale point of contact at Darrow. So once a case is sold to a partner firm, I provide support in research, drafting, and case strategy. And I'm also involved in the labor task force here at Darrow with my colleague Zoe. And Zoe, I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Luke. So, as Luke said, my name is Zoe. I'm also a licensed attorney, and my background is in plaintiff side labor and employment litigation. I joined Darrow about 4.5 years ago, and I am the team lead of Darrow's legal intelligence labor team. And so, right now at Darrow, what my team does is we use web intelligence to scan the internet and identify repeated patterns of illegal practices committed by large corporations against their employees. We then turn that information into comprehensive reports that law firms use to bring class actions or mass arbitration. So, over the past year or so, we've uncovered dozens of violations committed by specific types of companies. And that brings us to our topic here today.
Right. So we are here to talk to you today about MLMs or multi-level marketing companies. So I think, the first discussion topic that makes sense here is what exactly is an MLM? Like what do they do? What is their structure and their business model? So Zoe, like what companies are you looking at when we're creating these types of cases?
So, an MLM, it's multi-level marketing. Sometimes it's also referred to as a direct selling company, is a company that sells products or services through independent sellers who earn from their own sales and from a percentage of their recruits' sales.
Okay. So it's like a sales portion, and then it's also recruiting portion is like baked into their compensation. But like, how would somebody, it's like we know that these companies exist. People know about the big ones. And how do people get like sucked into this? What does a multi-level marketing company kind of represent to people, and what are they sold to get involved in this kind of structure?
So, first of all, a lot of people who are recruited to these companies in the first place come from vulnerable populations or communities. And sometimes they're just looking for a sense of community or relationships in their life. And so, historically, a lot of people that have been targeted are single mothers or minorities, and a lot of low income individuals as well. And they're really sold on the idea of the American dream and that they're going to earn as much as they're willing to put into the work. And if they work hard, that the sky's the limit and that there's limitless potential off of the earnings that they could make.
hmm Yeah, and I think kind of the classic example is, like the company car, right? Like people driving around fancy cars, and that the companies kind of encourage uplines to buy luxury products to give this image, right? That they're successful, that they can have everything that they want, to kind of like signal down to a downline, like this could be you one day, right?
Exactly. So a lot of these individual sellers uplines, which are kind of in a way act as their supervisors,
Mhm.
are showing them pictures of fancy cars or yachts or exotic vacations that they're taking. And it's under the guise that if you work hard and in addition to your 9 to 5 job, work at this MLM with me, then you're also going to be able to achieve financial freedom and success.
Right. And the addition to the 9 to 5 job is an important part there too, right? It's just like keep working and you'll achieve this Cadillac. The reality is, so that's the projection, but like the reality is that this all comes at a huge cost to people, right? So most of these companies require people to buy in like a minimum amount of product to get started, sometime with like a joiner fee. So there's a high upfront cost and then recurring costs that you have to do if you want to maintain active in the company. And from the company's own numbers, like this doesn't really work for people in practice. They often publish how much people are making from this system, and it's usually less than 10% on average, like across the companies I've seen, actually make any profit at all. And then of that 10%, maybe, they're not really making much meaningful profit. It's a very, very slim margin of folks who are able to actually make something that's like a livable, approximating like a livable wage here. And so many folks are loading up on inventory given the high upfront costs. They're unable to sell their product. They kind of accumulate it at their homes. They're told by the company if they complain, like you just need to keep working, keep buying, buy educational material so that you know how to sell better. And then you'll soon achieve that company car or that Rolex or whatever they're kind of signaling to people.
That's
Um,
absolutely right. So what ends up happening is that people actually go into debt, or in a lot of times they're not able to make any profit at all, or if they are, very little.
mhm.
And a lot of them end up ruining their lives because of it.
Yeah, and there's also a social component to it too, right? It's like a lot of people get sucked in by their friends and family. And then when you realize it's not working out for you and you want to leave, people get kicked out of the group chat, people get iced out of their communities, and there's kind of this veil of, unresponsiveness that gets like drawn over folks who try to leave.
Yeah, that's true too. So a lot of these people, as I said earlier, they come from vulnerable populations, or their backstory is that they're looking for a sense of community.
Mhm.
So when they first start at the MLM, sometimes they even get like love bombed, and they feel like, wow, my upline cares about me so much, and they just want what's best for me. And so they don't realize telltale signs when their life starts getting controlled by their uplines, even to the extent of who they can talk to and who they can't talk to, or who they can date or who they can't date, or even leaving their spouses. And then once individuals who are working at these companies finally realize what's happening, if and when they do, when they say that they want to leave, their uplines will call them a quitter
Mhm.
or will ice them out completely. And then it's only until then that they realize that these people who were their so-called friends were only wanted them as their downlines to profit off of.
Right. Yeah, it's so insidious. And there's like the social aspect of it, but then also in a lot of these contracts that are binding these independent contractors, they have non-compete provisions that apply not only to them once they want to leave the specific MLM, but also could apply to like their spouses or household members as well, because the companies know they're often selling to themselves or to their family members, and that this is kind of this, accumulation of inventory scheme.
Oh, you
Um,
bring up a really good point about the inventory scheme. So also part of what's happening at a lot of these MLM companies is that they don't even have real customers,
mhm,
and they will be encouraged or pressured to keep on purchasing inventory every month, even though they don't really have anyone to sell it to.
yeah.
So a lot of these independent sellers have tons of inventory at their house. They have so much they can't use it, and they want to give it away.
Mhm.
And the only people that are really buying from them are friends, or a couple friends, or a couple family members, if that. And how the company is complying on paper, but not in practice, to make it to comply with the law and make it appear as if they do have real customers, is to have the orders go to someone else that's not the independent seller's name,
Mhm.
and have it just that the credit card purchase is made with the independent seller's information and credit card number, but a third party's name and contact information.
Yeah. So like some of these companies have, implemented those policies on paper, like it has to be a third party sale, but there's these all these kind of practical workarounds that people know about and are actually sometimes encouraged by uplines to boost that lineage's sales, right?
Correct. And you
Um,
know what's happening is that the MLM companies themselves are not enforcing these policies at all, and they're not going to look and check to make sure that these inventory purchasers are going to actual genuine customers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a horrible world. But there is at least some good news out there, right? I mean, there is in some realm like accountability, right, through the court system. And so we do see occasionally some larger settlements in lawsuits against these companies. One that I can think of is Yeomans v. World Financial Group, kind of an insurance pyramid scheme. There was a $65 million settlement in San Francisco State Court, or California State Court in San Francisco, rather, in October 2025, so just a couple months ago. And so that case brought PAGA claims related to worker misclassification, saying that these folks working at these companies were really employees, not independent contractors, given the high degree of control that these companies exert over the day-to-day activities of salespeople, right? Like telling them what they can use in marketing language, how they can market, which online platforms they can use. And then also alleging, kind of as we were discussing, that it's an illegal pyramid scheme. So there's at least like some high monetary settlements out there. Are there some other ones that you can think of where it's actually changed practices or changed the culture of these companies to try to like maybe be a little bit more legitimate?
Right. So there's one other case that's relatively recent. It was against Rodan and Fields.
Hmm.
And that it was in the past year or so. That company actually changed the structure of how they operated as a result of the litigation. So in that case, they did first of all have a large network of independent sellers or independent contractors that
Mhm.
were selling their products or selling the products.
Sure.
And it wasn't required as part of the settlement, which it was about $8 million.
Mhm.
But the company decided upon themselves to change their business structure. And as of September 2024, they stopped recruiting their salespeople. I believe they called them consultants at that company.
Mhm.
But I also want to say that beyond these two more public, higher value settlement cases, they there are a substantial number of misclassification actions against MLMs that have been pursued through less public means, through either mass arbitration or resolved confidentially, or they also may have been filed in the courts publicly, but then later were moved to arbitration and also settled confidentially. But
Mhm.
that so it doesn't mean just because we haven't heard of them getting a lot of media attention that there haven't been successful cases in addition to these two where the plaintiffs have had a successful outcome.
Okay, so like the litigation landscape is a little deceptive. It's like we're kind of getting the blockbuster hits, if like anything, that comes to our news feed, but there's a lot kind of under the surface that people maybe aren't aware of. So the space is
Right.
more active than it seems, at least, right?
Right. And it very well may be the case that the plaintiff's bar is continuing to help these keep these companies accountable because
Mhm.
they still are very costly. They're very expensive for these companies to defend against.
Yeah.
And so if we keep on pursuing these cases in litigation, then it is a strong driver of how to affect actual change. Like in addition to Rowan Fields, we have seen these companies pull back and do more self-regulation. For example, to stop giving misleading statements regarding the products or lifestyle claims,
Mhm.
which are positive changes.
Yeah. And so, obviously we are Darrow, right? And we always approach the law a little bit differently with technology in mind and, overturning every single stone that we can with the information that's given to us or available to us. So what does like technology allow us to do with these types of violations in terms of, identifying a potential case, identifying something as an MLM? Compared to, maybe the past, in the more traditional way that lawsuits have been brought against these companies.
Great question. So, first of all, tech has uncovered these cases, for me at least. I don't know about you, Luke, but I always heard of MLMs only really in passing. I was
Mhm.
never actually exposed to them directly. I think my mom got invited to some makeup parties and was say, "Hey, you could make some money off of this too if you want to join and sell them." She never took the bait,
Okay, good.
and
I was gonna say, I hope she said no.
yeah, and I was never approached. But my team uncovered about a year ago a whole web of these cases. And that was because we were scanning the internet to look for large employers based in the US who had a large workforce of independent sellers or independent contractors.
Hmm.
And since virtually all of these MLM companies rely on a large workforce of independent contractors. We found these types of companies pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And then if you look across the board of how they're operating their business model, and you look at online chatter, especially from our fierce anti-MLM community,
Hmm.
then it became really clear that high levels of control were being exerted by these companies over their workforce of so-called independent contractors.
Mm, okay. And tell me a little bit more about the anti-MLM community. Like, so these people leave, they've obviously like been kind of shunned from their prior social circles. So they kind of create online these support groups, or like how are these folks communicating with each other and getting in contact with each other?
I'm no expert, so I'll say a bit of what I've learned, which is a good amount, but it still has been less than a year because this
Mm,
community's actually been around and growing for decades. And it started out slow, but thanks to tech and different forums online, the community has become a lot stronger and a lot more vocal and pretty savvy.
yeah.
So once these people started leaving or people started talking more, they started posting more online.
Mm,
And they were really strong and courageous to do this in the first place because a lot of these companies operate almost like a cult, and some would
okay.
even say as a commercial cult. And they try to instill fear and also brainwash so that individuals are not going online or they're saying you can't believe them. It's just a bunch of trash on there. It's not true. And so they discourage people from ever even looking online. But
Mhm.
then slowly but surely, some current distributors or independent sellers start going online to see these posts, and then seeds get planted and they continue to go back to them. And then hopefully, as the case is with a lot of them, they're continuing to go back and realizing that maybe I'm not being told the truth by my uplines. Maybe there is something to this. Maybe there's some truth in what people are saying online. And then slowly but surely realize that they are being taken advantage of by these companies. And then a lot of them go a full 180 from being totally brainwashed and part of these commercial cults to realizing that the truth is on the forums, and then they themselves become anti-MLMers.
Yeah, interesting. It's fascinating. It's kind of, seeing the light, right? And then trying to bring other people and inform other people so they don't make the same mistakes. Which, in my mind, just thinking of it from like a case generation perspective, means that there are plaintiffs out there, right? And there's like ways and channels for them to communicate with each other, so that these cases are really ripe. It's like once you find the violation, you need to just kind of figure out like who's out there, how can they communicate with each other and spread the word,
And you
so you
know
can
what
really
else
get
is they
these
don't
cases.
know about us. So
Yeah.
it's also great that, sometimes I think that they probably feel as if they're screaming out into the void
Hmm.
and that no one's hearing them. But Darrow is now, we're listening.
Yes, that's our job. We're good listeners. Great. Okay, so I think now, this brings us to we have some questions that came in from the audience. We can do a quick Q&A session to see kind of what our audience is thinking and see what we can do.
Sounds
Um,
great.
okay, so first question that I had come in is how do you see regulatory action and private litigation influencing each other in the MLM context over the next few years?
So I definitely think that private litigation is going to be a major driver of keeping MLM companies accountable for how they treat employees.
Mhm.
Probably regulatory action, specifically the FTC, will be less successful. So as we saw in Rodan and Fields, where as a result of that litigation, even though the court didn't compel Rodan and Fields to stop recruiting consultants and change their business model in response to that litigation they did. So that is a really good example of the potential that private litigation can have and how it can affect positive change in the behavior of MLMs.
Yeah, that was kind of my sense as well that, the regulatory action from the FTC probably isn't going to be super robust in this space in the near future. And it does seem that historically it has been private litigation more than regulatory action that has kind of reined these companies in, or at least like put a temporary stop on some of their practices. Although, as you mentioned, they're very smart at kind of adjusting, changing something on paper in their contract and then continuing a similar practice.
Right.
But
One
it kind of
one good
chips away.
One thing I want to mention that you just reminded me of, which is a great point, is one thing they've been able to do. They have really savvy attorneys, expensive
Mhm.
lawyers, and they sometimes in the past have had their arbitration clauses defeated.
Yeah.
But most of, if not all of them, now have very airtight arbitration clauses. And so that is what also is one of the reasons why there aren't a lot of really public cases out there against these companies. But one thing the plaintiffs bar is doing successfully is bringing mass arbitration, and that's
Mhm.
a huge driver potentially of affecting real positive change and influencing these corporations to change their behavior and be held accountable. Because mass arbitration is a method to to drive a lot of costs in this litigation, despite these arbitration clauses, which previously served as a major obstacle for the plaintiff's bar.
Right. Yeah, I know I've seen a lot of those arbitration clauses, in the cases that we've been producing, right? And I know that we specifically try to highlight the terms of each arbitration clause and kind of evaluate the strength of each when we do create a case for our partners, so that as a pretty big threshold issue is front and center. We acknowledge it, and so our partners know kind of like how to deal with those issues that will inevitably arise as litigation proceeds.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Second question. Okay, this is a good one. Okay, here we go. Are there warning signs you're seeing across different MLMs that suggest issues are systemic rather than company specific? And then how should attorneys think about pattern recognition in the MLM space?
Okay, so for the first part of the question, yes, definitely.
Hmm.
I see among these all different MLM companies repeated practices that they're repeating over and over again. And I should also add that, and I think the anti-MLM community will agree with me here, is that I have yet to see an MLM company that does not take advantage of its independent contractor workforce.
Yeah.
So some of the red flags that I look for, first of all, if they have that upline, downline hierarchy.
Hmm. That's
If,
like the telltale sign, right, of the
oh yeah,
MLM. It's like part of the definition, right? Yeah.
yes. So if you're looking at and this is both for plaintiffs' attorneys and if you're thinking about joining one of these as an independent seller,
Hmm.
if you're reading over the agreement terms for the contract and you see the word upline, downline, run.
Run. Yeah,
Yeah.
if that's anything you take away from our webinar today, is you see that language, get away as fast as
Yeah.
possible.
So or anything that looks like upline, downline, or anything
Mhm.
that resembles a pyramid. It's a really strong indicator if that type of language or business structure is being used that they are misclassifying their employees.
Mhm. Okay. And then
Uh,
oh yeah, you also
Go
mentioned
ahead.
like high levels of control, right? And like additional costs. Like what are some of these like additional costs that are kind of foisted upon independent contractors in these companies?
I love that word foisted. It's a good
Yeah,
nod to
foist.
curb.
It's like
Um,
my fencing terminology, yeah.
yeah, so high levels of control, and what was the other one? The other one was the ongoing costs.
Yeah, like what kind of costs and like yeah, what are they controlling and then also what are they like pushing on these people to buy?
Okay, so there's high elements of control in both personal and work life.
Mm.
So some things, one of the high levels of control with the work life is the ongoing pressure to purchase inventory, even when you don't have any customers to purchase it.
Hmm.
So that's a big one. And then also attending events, functions, meetings, all that costs money.
Yeah.
Some of these functions are costing about $250 a person, and they're being required to fly out to attend these events and pay for their own room and lodging and concessions. And in some cases, the uplines are earning a cut from the hotel, from the concessions, and from the function tickets, and they're not even being told by their uplines that they're profiting off of them just for their attendance.
Well,
Some are even requiring them since COVID started. There's some of these functions are happening online, and they're even requiring the attendees to pay just to attend a Zoom conference.
that's
So
ridiculous.
yeah, it's
As
crazy.
independent contractors, yeah.
And as you know, a lot of them are couples, and
Hmm.
they're requiring the couples not just to pay for one $250 ticket to attend the function, but both people in the couple of the team.
Another one that I
So
saw that I found I just thought was so insidious was they also like have a rate for children, like of a certain age, right? It's like you have to pay for your child to be able to come with you. And like you said, like these companies prey on vulnerable populations, like single mothers, right? It's just this kind of like perpetuating system, and it's like codified in their fee structures and in the way that these conferences are set up.
yeah,
It's
and they're like, well, if you're serious about the business, if you want to invest in the business and be successful, then essentially attendance at these events and functions and meetings that you all have to pay for everything, it's mandatory. And not only that, you also see the requirement to purchase applications
Mhm.
and other software to communicate that you also are shunned for if you don't participate and if you don't pay for them.
Well. Oh, yeah, it's a doozy. And then are there any other kind of like areas of control that seem to be kind of like systemic that you see across companies that these companies are doing? Like we had mentioned, marketing, right? Like they really have a high degree of control over how like an independent contractor, right, as like an independent salesperson, can like use their creativity to market products. So they say which online fora that they can use. They say what language they can use, what version of like the logo for the company they can use, which, that one makes a little bit more sense. But are there some other ones that just seem like particularly egregious to you that you've kind of seen across companies in these contracts and then also in practice?
In general, if you are truly an independent contractor, then you should have the entrepreneurial discretion to market and sell products the way that you want to and where you want to.
Hmm.
So it's a major red flag if you're being told where you can sell, where you cannot sell, like you can't sell in person at a store. You can't sell online. You can't sell through like eBay. You can't sell if you make up your own online website. You can only sell through specific channels or in person.
Hmm.
And but at the same time, if you want to promote to sell those products, you only can do so on certain channels and in certain ways and use certain language.
Yeah.
You are not an independent contractor. You're an employee.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think of when I think of like a true salesperson, right, is like it's how you sell, but then it's also who you sell to. And so like another thing that I've noticed in a lot of these contracts or, agreements governing these independent contractors, again, in quotes, is that the upline, downline, and like your network is proprietary. That's proprietary information of the company itself. So once you leave, you're not able to access your old network to keep selling again, indicating that you're not truly independent and that this was all done in an employment capacity for the company.
Completely. And also, this creates total dependence on the company because
Mhm.
you have to stay there in order to continue to earn profits off of your downline because you cannot take them with you. And if you get fired, which is also a hallmark of an employer, not an independent contractor relationship,
Mhm.
then you will lose your ability to earn a living.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, I think, unfortunately, I think that's all we have time for today. But
I could
everybody
talk to
out
you about
there,
this all day, Luke.
I know, we're running out of time. I love this topic, and we will definitely continue talking about it amongst ourselves, Zoe. And we hope you all join us, and we hope that you all out there in the audience and had a great time. You learned something. Thank you for listening. And if you're interested in working on cases in labor and employment, and specifically with MLMs, like we've been talking about, please be in touch. You can reach us at contact@darrow.ai or reach out to myself, Luke Miller, or Zoe here directly. My email is luke.miller@darrow.ai. Zoe, I
And
think
mine
yours is
is
similar.
Zoe.Aharon at Darrow.ai. And also, if you're whether you're a lawyer or you are an employee and you think you were misclassified by an MLM, then feel free to contact me directly.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for chatting with me today, Zoe. And thank you all for joining. I hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to working with you.